Good morning. This is Dylan Jovine with Behind the Markets. Happy Friday. Woo! TGIF. Today is Friday, April 18th. I'm very excited to report that one of the companies that we featured in our webinar on Wednesday just released some news that they've been selected to join the U.S. Air Force's $46 billion enterprise-wide Agile acquisition contract program, which is a major gateway into major defense programs. Guys, this robotic arm is a big deal. Robots are the thing. This is happening. I'm very excited. There still is time to get involved in this. I don't know. I was very excited when I got this email. I'm a big fan. I'm also a fan of the NVIDIA car-backed autonomous vehicle, but I don't know. I just sunk my teeth. You guys know I'm so crazy about the military and everything with national defense. I just perceive how this is going to play out. I think I'm closer to that than I am into autonomous vehicles, even though I think that's going to be a huge opportunity too, of course. So I got a few questions that I just want to bang through here. We got hundreds of questions actually about the webinar. A bunch of people asked me personally, so I figured I'd just go through them. How is it to use the new platform? Anonymous asked this. Is it hard? And new platforms, new ways to buy stock are crazy. They're scary. They're a little bit scary. I own an online company and I'm not a tech genius. Believe me, I'm better than my mom. My mom asked me to fix the volume on her iPhone and she thinks I'm a tech genius. I'm not that bad. But at the end of the day, these are designed, it's like going to Apple. It's not going to E-Trade or Schwab. It's not like that. You don't have a bazillion forms to fill out. It's really kind of simple. It's like going to Amazon, setting up your address, and then you the little button that says how much you want to invest. You pick the company, how much you want to invest. We send you the link to the actual company at $250, $500, whatever you want. You press invest and you just go through a few steps. And it literally is like Amazon. So it's very easy, a lot easier than you think. My friend Aisa, who I communicate with often, she writes in, I've not yet invested in private companies, mostly because I don't understand the tax implications or specific rules associated with investing. Do you know a good source I can trust to figure that out? I am not an accountant. I recommended ChatGPT, which she responded and said worked very well with her. I will tell you that you're buying a stock, okay? Don't forget something. You're buying a stock, okay? It just happens to be private, shares in a private stock instead of a public stock. So generally speaking, the same rules are going to apply. But again, speak to your accountant. Anonymous, is there a mandatory waiting time before I can sell the investment after IPO? There usually is a lockup period. I've seen lockup periods go 6 months, a year. So yes, there is, not always, it's not written in stone, it's no legal thing, but there usually is a lockup period. And that always applies, well, mostly applies to insiders. Sometimes it applies, or often, I should say, it applies to people who invest at this stage. Jeffrey writes in, if these pre-IPO companies are so great and have such great backing, why do they need to go public? That's a great question. They don't really need to go public anymore, actually. A lot of companies have been staying private for much, much longer periods of time. It's actually an interesting phenomena. A lot of people don't want the Sarbanes-Oxley and all the regulation. People have talked to us about behind the markets going public, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with all that, Ray. It's crazy. You have to have 50 accountants. You got to do this. You got to do this. Too much drama. Did you say worth the squeeze? There are a lot of pre-IPO companies that have come to the same conclusion, and they're generating positive cash flow. So why would they need to go public? The only real reason to go public, in my view, is you're going to create an expansion that really needs the kind of cash that you can raise in the public markets. But for the most part these days, private venture capital funds have gotten so big, they'll fund these things for years. You need $1 billion to fund expansion? Pretty much 10 VC firms will write that check for you. So going public is not the, there's a whole private market that's actually grown up here, like on Forge, where these private shares are trading like stocks. You don't need to go public. Douglas, in my early days, circa the 70s, an IPO was not able to be sold on issue by buyer other than management for pre-IPO owners today. The world has changed a lot since then in some ways, and it hasn't in other ways. When a company is selling stock to the public, they have one of two ways to do that. One is they sell shares that existing management has. So let's say the company has 1 million shares outstanding, and Bob owns 500,000 and Tom owns the other 500,000. So they each sell, let's say, 100,000 shares. So they own 400,000 left. Or more commonly, they issue more stock. So basically, if there's 1 million shares outstanding, they'll issue new shares of 200 or 300,000 shares. So the total outstanding shares goes to 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, et cetera. Annette writes in, can the investment come from a traditional IRA? Yes, it can, 100%. Anonymous, as an average, about how many weeks, months pass from the pre-IPO funding to the IPO release announcement? Look, first of all, there's no guarantee that these things go public, okay? I want to make that very clear. I know other people in my position, they never tell you that. But we're adults, so I got to live with you. That's not the way it is. So when you're investing in companies, private companies like this, a third of them go bankrupt, a third of them, a big chunk of them get taken over, or they just generate cash flow. They just keep increasing in value. And let's say the last third, we'll say 2 of them go public and are nice winners. And then 1 of them goes public and is a blockbuster winner. Now, what I like about this company that we're talking about is it has all those little ingredients. When you were a kid and your parent would make good soup or sauce, Italian sauce, and she make a good sauce, and you knew it was a good sauce, the right amount of garlic and onions and all these other things. This has the makings of a good sauce, a really good sauce, to be one of those really big winners. But the truth is, those things tend to take about a year to answer your question. Bill asked, isn't there usually a blackout period for folks that bought pre-IPO shares? Yeah, a blackout period is when, in the financial markets, is when certain company employees are prohibited from buying and selling shares. I think you're talking about a lockup period, which, again, I spoke about earlier, 6 months to a year usually. Anyway, those are the questions that we got that were most common. We have others. Sorry, we can't answer them all. Anyway, have a wonderful weekend. We will get back to our normal course of business on Monday. Take care.